All right, Lisa, you're up next.
Yep. Oh, yes. Yes. Hello, greetings, KALASK.
Greetings to Lisa person, yes.
Yes. Greetings. Well, I'm glad to be here and talking with you again. So, I was wondering a little bit more about the landscape that I live on. And I was wondering if there are, there really are, I feel like there's beings that have been turned to rock or stone, like animals, people, and anything like dragons and different things like that. Um, what's your perspective on that?
Well, obviously in different dimensionalities there are different entities that exist. Just like you have your flora, fauna, certain dimensionalities like your monkeys, for example, that twirl across the place. And obviously once you go to another dimensionality, beings that you're perceiving with your physical eyes, for example, they're all overlaid, just like an ant might not be aware if there's a human anywhere near. It just might seem it sounds like an earthquake when it walks by, right? The same way the entities around your frequency you might sense, but you can see them. The same way the ant can perceive the higher hairs monkey walking by. The same way there are numerous entities obviously also in the vicinity, also particularly your fauna fields aligned with, yes. But also where to some ideas that you're sharing in terms of picture material with the vessel. So we have sort of picturesque idea of what you're referring to in terms of the frequency of the whole area, etc., right? Now, many of your natives might have called them nature spirits, etc., or fairies, quite literally. There's the idea entities being there, or what you term those that are interacting with the flora and the fauna, but mostly with the flora. That from a higher dimensionality, you have something like an energy. They're like antennas, basically. Many of the flora that's like an antenna with those intertwined with those frequencies, but that's quite normal. You have many of those vortexes or criss systems that overlay your planet, where some of them cross, like one of those, for example. There's perhaps a higher processes of energy, and which also affects usually the plant matter, but it can also affect the fauna and your own species if you're in the vicinity. Also interacting with those particular entities, also particular entities that you have a particular affinity towards that are, well, more of an equine nature. And yes, indeed, there are also entities non-physical that you might associate with our species, right? So not necessarily a crocodile, the river, or snakes that might exist as well, but more the idea being those of higher frequency that are more aligned with us. But then again, remember, you also feel drawn to certain regions, you pulse out certain frequency. That's the alignment with what you're thinking, focusing on, and your connection with us obviously also enhances that, especially if you're creating physical objects or something similar with our symbol. Then you're obviously also going to interact with our frequency, but entities that are also aligned with our particular frequency to wherever you've created this physical manifestation.
Wow, that was a lot.
Yes.
Okay. Well, my whole area that I look into now is like kind of, it's vast. So, how would I like to?
Yes.
Yes.
I require any further details.
I don't know. I'm trying to think about it. Oh my god. Okay, so first, how about the mountains and hills? Are they created with other people that have been turned to stone?
We're aware of this theory. Your Earth has been terraformed numerous times in your past, right?
Okay.
What you call such. So it's not necessarily people have been turned to stone, but yes, in some cases, entire regions have been turned to stone, or also simply turn to ash. As we shared
Right.
previously, similar warfare happened on your planet in your so-called ancient past, particularly on your country as well, right?
Mhm.
And then there's also been the idea of simply forming a certain crown for a new species. So therefore, a lot of what you considering your landscape has been changed to make it habitable for a species. Some also just overtake what others had created, change it to something different, etc. And some of those things have indeed piled up to rocks, and some of it has indeed, well, been pressed down in valleys. So some of it is naturally formed if you wish, but your planet, of course, also a conscious entity, your Gaia, whatever you call her, right? Has
Yeah.
also, so it depends, the difference between natural and artificial is quite smooth, right? The
Yeah.
transitioning part is malleable, depends on the definition.
Right. Yeah. I'm getting that. Okay, so while I think about something, did you want hydrate?
Yes, a great idea.
Okay. It's kind of like we all just are like building upon each other, like we all live on each other or with each other. So I mean, even like in other parallel, like there's others right by me, and we're kind of all just we could interact, but we're kind of like dedicated to what we need to do in our reality, or we can transition to whatever. But yeah, I just kind of feel like we're all building upon each other.
You are interacting all with each other all of the time, you can't stop it.
Yeah.
Energy is permeating everything. Again, to us, the willpower, the strength to drive forward, energy, if you wish, whatever. Eric Ferris might call it love, but you don't necessarily think it's what you associate with the term, and the idea of it being, well, just nicety, etc. Usually what you associate more with love, therefore
Yeah.
personal power, the will to strive forward, which also can be more destructive or creative, depends, it's a better term. But again, those are all words from your language, so we're just using them appropriately what you would consider such. Now, you are, however, all interacting with this frequency or what you earlier called such that permeates everything all the time. It just depends if you're consciously aware of it or not.
Yes.
And if
And
you
that's
ground in your reality
fine.
or not.
Yeah, and depending on what you're wanting to do, I suppose in your story, in your
Somehow,
time.
yes.
Yeah. Um, Besides KALASK and other
Yes.
reptilian energy assisting me in quite a few ways here, the equines have seemed to be they are helping as well. Because their their energy is really big here, and it's one of the where I could touch physically or be physical face to face with, and their energy has been helping again. I disconnected from them for a while, coming back to that, and that's been helping uh, with empowerment and being able to be in my body well with them, because some of them are pretty wild, you know, compared to your
Yes.
size. So
Not compared to ours, but we're where you're referring to, and we had our run-ins with some of them quite a few times. Also with the kitty cats in conjunction. They perhaps have a better relationship to them than we did.
yeah.
But then again, we had a warlike situation with most of those species, including those.
Hmm. Yeah. Interesting.
Yes, they're also quite warrior-like. We give them that, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. I am integrating or incorporating quite a few energies in me here, and it's balancing them out is something, but yeah, it's quite wonderful. There's quite a few. Um,
Yes.
Okay, so is there anything that you would like to exemplify on, or
Exemplify? Well, for example, yes.
Yeah, go ahead, or talk with me about, or say at this time.
Well, being in touch with your nature is certainly a great way to get both grounded whilst be more in harmony, perhaps without necessity of engaging in conflict, right?
Yes.
So, many of your species on your planet have already gone extinct. Some more might as your species crosses further and it goes extinct itself. But the more you're still interacting with what's still left of your flora and fauna on your planet, which is quite rare. There aren't that many planets on the third dimension at least have this quite variety of different species. So therefore, you can also tune to this very precious gift that you have on your planet, that you have the possibility to interact with, and not just get energy from being there, but also exchange energy with both flora, fauna, or the equines, for example, if you wish, right?
Yes.
And in this case, it's not just a process of one side to the other, it's in both directions. So being in open nature where you are certainly helping you with grounding first and foremost, right? While still making it possible for you to reach what you first call airy frequencies, right?
Yeah.
There's likely also at the precipice of where we can meet to some degree, energetically, is the closest idea of what you might deem on your planet airy or a fact that gets close enough to what we would suggest as constructive and good, is the interaction with nature and what you would perhaps consider environmentalism. In many ways, we are simply a radical environmentalist, right?
Yes.
So therefore, our protection of any particular planetary body is essential, not necessarily individual life forms. For example, if there's many beings of a certain species that die in a horrible war or they die in a fire, etc., we don't have this sensation of like empathy, as you're calling such, and we feel their pain, etc. But for entire planetary body, if, for example, your bees would go extinct or birds, that would be a catastrophe, right? Because that would damage the entire ecosystem as a living entity, right?
Yes.
That would, for example, be a point where we would consider interference to some degree in order to keep the ecosystem intact. We understand that the difference to some other species, including the cats, etc., that have more of a preference towards individual entities that also have life in terms of units of life, more life itself, and more the idea of empathy, the idea of empathizing with individual entities that are suffering or thriving. We have a perhaps more neutral approach, and we understand many beings in your world are pain in your heart reach when you consider the possibility of entities being inflicted pain individually, not just the idea if the species goes extinct, it's bad, or if a person that I'm closely connected to dies, that I can no longer get the benefit from interacting with a person, that's negative. But that you have pain, etc., you have empathy, and you're feeling the loss of somebody, or the joy of someone who's doing great, you're just considering, oh, well, there's the leader of my current military squadron, and this person's just achieved victory for all of us. This is his direction, so great that this person is happy right now. It perhaps means that we just achieved victory in a certain strategic position. That's great. Those other entities don't have the same, many don't have the same understanding. It's more empathic in their idea. I just feel great because this other individual feels great, or I feel bad because the individual feels bad. That's perhaps where we have a great disconnection with our idea of empathy or compassion, etc. But nonetheless, in this particular instance, coming from our perspectives, we achieve and arrive at the same goal of what we wish to achieve, even though we have a different approach to it. The advantage is we don't lose our shit, so to speak, right? Like many of your species, perhaps more females than males, but males increasingly as well, are overwhelmed with greater idea of conflict in certain regions and like to make stupid decisions when they're in such a situation of fear, right?
Yes. Yeah.
We don't react to it the same way. We strive of the fear, we enjoy it, we get high on it, and therefore we can think very clearly in such situations and make much smarter decisions. Or on the other hand, we can often not pick up on certain decisions due to the closeness of the heart, again, we're constantly heartbroken, as we shared earlier, or what you would term such, or what the pain that you might feel when you see its entity suffering has gotten so great in us that it simply overwhelmed the heart to a degree that simply closed off. Now, at that degree, where we can think straight and clear, we have unfortunately also the other disadvantage of not sensing things as clearly in your word. It's not just the difference between us and you. The main thing that we are more intellectual, etc. We are using emotions, even though the Empire doesn't like to call it such. We're just using them differently. We're using them as fuel, right? We never let them overpower us, but positive emotions that you're calling such, lovey-dovey emotions, right? Those are the ones we always closed off, and therefore we don't get engaged in the airy-fairy feeling, compassionate, sensitive entities, and therefore often don't sense certain things. We don't have an efficient radar, so to speak, that picks up everything at vibrant at this frequency. Only a radar, like a sonar, for example, that picks up a certain frequency that's being transmitted to a certain substance, right? Like water. So, as a metaphor. So therefore, it's also the main reason we are interacting with your species to see how you are interacting with this frequency that we are sharing, which is usually not very hard-based, right? And observing how you can personally interact with this frequency, so we, from the other perspective, can understand how to incorporate this particular frequency and you have such an overabundance that you can control it.
Yeah. So there was an experience I had. Something devastated had happened in an area, and it was completely locked down. But we decided to go. My boyfriend and I decided to go through it anyways, and we had military. Just people were watching. So I'm all hesitant and having a difficult time a little bit because he was just going faster, but he's like, I got it, we're going to do it. And I'm like, I know, I was still, but I still, I did it too. I mean, I was there, but I can see how, yeah, when, especially if you're me being hesitant and stuff at certain areas and not using it as fuel, it stops me from being in the now moment so that I can make the best decisions.
Always remain grounded in the now moment and do whatever seems the correct thing to do. Yes.
Yeah.
And we understand you have a certain nervousness about your military projects, so we cannot quite understand fully, because remember, in our culture, everybody is in the military to some degree.
Yeah.
So we don't have any civilians.
Yeah. I am incorporating this. I'm like really looking into this, and I was wondering about that too, because I mean, I'm connecting, I feel connected, and I'm finding different bases and different things like that. I was just on your perception, am I doing okay with staying alive?
Very well. Compared to most of your species, very well.
Yes. Yeah, that's great. And well, and also I think what helps is I'm enjoying it. It's not so I'm to expose anybody, but I'm just figuring things out and I'm enjoying it. And yeah, I mean, because it is my shit. It's my stuff,
Yes, indeed. And you also need shit, right?
Yeah.
For plants to grow.
Yeah. Fertilizer.
Exactly.
Okay, this is great. Okay.
Yes, and obviously also when you do our frequency, it helps you create this grounding and standing through, as you were aware, as we shared previously, where we come on terms with the vessel understanding that peace can only exist in the eye of the tornado, right?
Yes.
That's something we're also aware from the vessel that we simply agreed with, and we met in the middle, so to speak, of having basically an agreement. Peace, yes, but only in this particular metaphor. We otherwise would never adhere to something like this whatsoever. That's something we picked up from your speech that perhaps have an easier time understanding. And you seem to be quite comfortable in that space from what we can tell.
Yes. I do like the eye of the storm, because really the storm is us. And as long as we're not deviating from ourselves, then we stay in the middle, stay within ourselves. And so, I don't know. That kind of makes
Yes,
sense.
you create a storm at all times. Once you become aware of that, you can do whatever else with it.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking into. Yeah. Okay.
Perfect.
Yes. Again, thank you, appreciations, and always KALASK first. Yes. Besides me first, but yes,
Yeah.
go ahead. Me first. KALASK first too. Oh my gosh. Yes. Okay. Okay. I'm done. Thank you again.
Wonderful.
So water for the vessel, please, and then Tim's up next.
Testing. Can anyone hear me?
Your mic's a little low, Tim.
Okay. Speak closer.
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. I'll just have to do this.
You'll just have to get close to it.
Yep. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Strengthen on a KALASK.
Critic, 10%, yes.
Yes. Nice to hear your voice again.
Just the vessel's voice with us intonating it. Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So, is there anything you want to say first? I always like to hear your words of advice.
Yes, you're a little bit scattered in your frequency, right?
I'm a little bit what?
Scattered.
Yeah, a little bit more, definitely.
Yes, it also comes out in your idea of not speaking up clearly, your microphone issue, etc. Right. Your throat chakra could reach some alignment, adjustment, right?
Correct.
Is there something you're not expressing clearly, then do so.
Expressing clearly in what manner?
In general, what you're radiating out, what you're communicating with other entities, with us or others here, or other here of monkey, etc., in New World, wherever, there's always a